Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Um, yeah, so that was the main thing that I had. Victor, did I have anything else that I needed to share?
No, I
Oh,
think
there is.
just that.
Okay, there is, and I forwarded to you. I thought I forwarded it to both of you, but there is a VITA, there will be a VITA site for people to get their taxes done. Now, there are instructions in 17 different languages. So if you guys do know people that, speak Swahili or Arabic or whatever, the instructions of what to bring to those VITA sites, Jenny, if I didn't send that to you, I'm going to do that also, and you can send it out to these folks because there's 17 different languages. So you guys may know somebody that could use this. So I think it would be worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Seems funny, I should have had all this stuff done, but actually I just got it. So so I'm not as bad as I think I am, but boy, timing is everything. So anyway, okay, I'll quit talking. I know, Victor, you probably want to get going. If any of you guys want to meet with Victor, you're back in the office here on Friday.
Yeah, I'll be back Friday,
So
this Friday.
yeah, so if you want to meet with him, just shoot me an email and I'll put you on his calendar. And then he'll see it and know what he's got coming.
Yes, yes.
Same thing goes for
Okay.
you, Jenny. If anybody wants to meet with Victor, they're not stuck with me. So, they can they can do whoever they can pick, choose, whatever. So won't hurt my feelings. He's a good guy and he does a good job. So I'm just tickled that you're helping us out, Victor. So it is appreciated. Okay.
Okay,
I'm out.
all right. Okay, well, welcome everyone. And we are in our third session. We are going to finish up today the business model canvas. We have been looking at the first two parts of it, starting with the customer segments, value propositions. And then last week, we worked on the customer relationships, channels, and revenue stream. And today, we are going to work on the last phase of it. And let me share my screen. And we are going to see, and we're going to start with key resources. And if you notice there we have key resources, key activities, key partners, and cost structure. And as I was talking about in the last two sessions, we have mentioned that the business model canvas really is like if you are in a theater and you have the curtains and everything in front of the curtain is what the audience gets to see. And that's what you worked on the last 2 weeks on the value proposition, customer segments, customer relationships, channels, and revenue streams. That would be everything that is visual to the customer segments and to everybody else. This is how they see your business. Now, we are going to do the key partners, key activities, key resources, and cost structures, which is everything behind the curtains. It's behind the curtains, but it is key for the success of your business. Everything that we talk about today will incur an expense. And that's why everything, key partners, key activities, key resources are directly related with the cost structures. Okay, let's start with key resources. Really, key resources are the most important things you need to have for your business model to work. The business models are based on a number of essential tangible and or intangible resources. When we're talking about tangible, we're talking about the resources that visually and your customer segments can see. And tangible resources, the first one would be physical resources. And physical resources can include, and it's not just limited to this listing that I have here, but it can include the manufacturing facilities, the buildings, offices, the brick and mortar store, vehicles, machines, equipment, systems, point of sale systems, and distribution networks. And what you will see with the physical resources are that they are very capital intensive. And that's why we have talked about in regard to cost structure, that the cost structure for the first year, second year is higher than the revenue stream because of the resources and the investment that is included in establishing all of your resources, be it physical and the other that we will talk about today. But the physical resources are the most cost intensive. They are capital intensive. They require investments. And that's why when you are building your business model and you are preparing your business plan and you are preparing to launch your business, it is very, very important for you to come up with your pre-launch expenses and then your existing business expenses, your normal expenses. And you have to think about in pre-launch, what is the equipment, what are the facilities, and everything else that you have to invest in before you even start up and open up your business. And then once you open up your business, you have to think about on a monthly basis, what will be my expenses on a monthly basis. So it's very important, and key resources is one of those areas, especially the physical resources. The physical resources will come in a lot of times in the pre-launch stage, where before you even open up, you have to buy your equipment, you have to start paying a lease on a brick and mortar store, or you have to buy a vehicle, and you have to have a point of sale systems. You have to prepare everything so that when you start up on day one, you can run your business, you can make your sales, you can have delivery of your products, and you have a continuation of retaining your customer segments. So these physical resources are very important to know what they are and to take them into account. And then the second resources is the human resources. They are the employees. They are the team that will make up your business model. And the people are important and prominent in certain business models. In certain business models, if you have a manufacturing facility, people are going to be key because you need people or human resources in order to produce or manufacture whatever product your company is going to be selling. So you have to take into account human resources. Also, you have to take into account the specialty of the professional resources that you will need. Professional, if you are a graphic design studio and you need a graphic designer, you might need a web page designer, you might need a marketing specialist. So you have to think about, okay, what are the key resources that have to that are necessary to make up my team, my business team. And then the third tangible resource you have to think about are your financial resources. Where are you going to get the funding to start up your business and to keep your business going? And then you have to think about, okay, where am I going to get the investments? Where am I going to start up with? Is it going to be with my savings? Is it going to be with a loan that my family or friends can make to me? Or is it even going to be a bigger investment where I would have to talk to a financial institution? And that's where I would need as it says here, financial resources or a financial guarantee, such as SBA, which does the financial guarantees. And then you have to think about your cash, your lines of credit, and then stock options. If you are a bigger company that you are starting up and you want to hire key employees, such as a CEO or a CFO or somebody that is a specialist in their area, and you want to keep this employee, this person on your team, you might think about a stock option. And then if you are a corporation, it depends everything on how you set up your legal entity and how you are going to set up your team. So you have to think about the financial resources that will be part of your business model. And then now we see the intangible resources. And intangible resources, unfortunately, a lot of times we really don't think about these. We probably place it in a second phase, and we think, okay, first of all, I have to think about all my tangible resources. But it is important to start thinking about your intangible resources from the beginning, because the intangible resources are the intellectual resources. It is the brand that you are building, that brand identity. It's the proprietary knowledge that you may have in creating a product or giving a service. It is the patents and copyrights. And they also include the traffic of customer segments that are coming through your store. And it's also the user base and the trust that has been built with your company. And all of this is part of the intellectual resources. And these resources are intangible. They are difficult to develop, but can offer substantial value when they have been developed. And it only adds to the value of your business model, especially when you get to a phase where you are thinking about selling your business. And so you have to keep building this and think about, okay, what is the brand identity? What proprietary knowledge am I adding on to my business? What patents or copyrights do I have to take care of so that everything is protected and those resources can be key into the importance of my business? If you are a small restaurant and you are thinking of creating a franchise, you have to think about all of these aspects, because this is what's going to make your small business unique from everyone else. This is where it's that brand identity, it's that proprietary knowledge, it's the patents and the copyrights, it's the traffic, the user base, and the trust. And all of this is it requires investments on your behalf. It requires investing on creating this and establishing it. So it's not just the financial investment, but it is also time consuming, and it implies effort and you to put in the effort, the time, and the finances to build your intellectual resources. But you have to see all of these resources as investments. They are investments for the long-term value and success of your small business. So you have to think about these four types of resources that we just talked about. On the business model canvas, highlight the key resources which are essential for your business model to work, for your business model to be unique, for your business model to be successful. So you have to think about it and start writing down on those sheets, on the business model canvas, start writing down what are the key resources for my business. And two things to take into consideration is make sure you stay strategic and don't place incomplete statements. Don't just say, oh, I need great employees. Yes, great employees are essential for every business, but not necessarily a key building block of every business. You have to be specific. What type of great employee do you need? Because those are the qualities that you will be seeking out when you hire the person that will take up that position. So it's very important to be specific about what is the type of employee that I am seeking for my business team. And then two, make sure you understand which key resource really drives your business. And on a continuous basis, it could be every 3 months or every half a year, or at most, at least once a year. And you have to challenge that belief constantly. You have to do the adjustments, review what you have placed down on your business model on a consistent basis, and then review, change, make the changes that are necessary and make the adjustments that are necessary. Because I'll give you an example. When we entered COVID-19, a lot of key resources had to change, especially with the human resources, especially if you were a food sector business or hospitality or entertainment. You really had to pivot your business, and you had to challenge how you had set up your business in the past to now, where maybe you cannot open up your business, but you can offer delivery or pickup for your customer segments. And so you have to think about, okay, the key resources, how is this going to be changed during this situation? So always challenge what you have on your business model and keep coming back, because it is a breathing document. It is ever changing. It's always going to be developing and pivoting, and you are going to be adding on and taking off from each of the building blocks as we progress into the future, and new technologies come up, new situations come up. So you have to keep working on your business model. Now we have the key activities. Key activities are the most important things you need to be able to implement or perform for your business model to work. what are the key activities that are necessary for my business to be successful? Is it manufacturing? Is it operational? Is it management? Is it professional services? Oh, is it even just within your company having accountability, having a financial area, having a design area? What are those key activities that you have to think about and that you have to implement and that you have to perform, or your team has to perform for your business model to work? So you're going to identify the activities which make or break your business model. It's very important to put on your key activities. Now, there are several categories for key activities. One is production. It's a value chain that you come up with, you establish from concept to distribution. And this is this one is very useful if you have a manufacturing facility, if you are manufacturing a product. And so you have to think about the production, all the phases that come into account. You have to think about the activities relating to designing, to making and delivering a product in substantial quantities or superior quality. You have to think about, and we'll talk about that topic when we come to cost structure, about producing substantial quantities versus superior quality. But right now, it's important to think about what is your business model? Is it a production? Does it include the value chain from concept to distribution? Or is it problem solving? A lot of professional services would come under this category about problem solving. It relates to coming up with new solutions to customer problems. It's the value shops of problem solving, where you resolve a problem that your customer has. If you are an accountant, if you are an attorney, if you are a photographer, if you are a web designer, any professional services will be included in this category about problem solving. You are helping your customer segments come up with solutions to their problems, to their needs. And then another category, which is very popular now that we have high-tech businesses or businesses that are based on a software or an app or other aspects. And it's about building and managing a platform or network. And it's a value network. And they are networks. They are matchmaking platforms. It's including software and brands can function as a platform. And you have to think about building and managing a platform or a network. So let's say if your business is consulting, but you have pivoted from in-person to virtual. So you now have to build and manage that platform or that network so that you can give the services to your customer segments and for your business model to continue to grow. So it's a continuous process of building and managing the platforms and the networks that you will be working with and expanding that network in order to increase your customer segments. And so Facebook and other companies are within this type of category of key activities. And right now, it's a very popular option for a lot of people who work with apps. And they are building their apps. And what they're really doing is building and managing a platform or a network. Now, key activities you have to take into consideration. One, make sure you stay strategic and ask yourself, what is essential to your model? And then make sure you understand which key activities you really need to excel at. And I always, when I am counseling one-on-one with entrepreneurs and small business owners, I tell them, you have to focus on your key activities. And if you have weaknesses, either you're gonna hire an employee to cover that weakness, or you're going to seek out the professional services. I'll give you an example. In my case, when I was a small business owner, the financial aspects were not my strength. And so I had an accountant that took care of all the aspects that had to do, because at that part, I was an exporter into Mexico. And in Mexico, I was an importer. So I had a dual role. I had to take care of all the products that were coming in from the United States and taking them into Mexico. And then in Mexico, I had to import them and do all the process and paperwork. And then when it got to the financial aspects, well, it was complicated because I had to take care of the financial aspects in Mexico and then in the United States eventually. So I had to deal with the IRS of Mexico, which has a different name, but also the IRS of the United States. So it was strategic for me to understand what were my weak points and to seek out professional services that can be part of my team and would help in those key activities that were important in the success of my business. And that's just, we have to think about these key activities and see what do we excel in and what areas do we not excel in, but that we can bring on a team member who excels in those areas, or seek out the services of a third party who would be part of your team or a key partner, as we will talk about in a little while. And so it's important to take into account the key activities. And then we have third, the key partners. And this is the last building block on the upper part of the business model. And the key partners is the network of partners and suppliers that leverage your business model and help make it work. And I'm just going to mention a couple of types of partnerships. One is strategic alliances, and strategic alliances between non-competitors. And it would be if you have an alliance, let's say if you are in a brick and mortar store in your Iowa rural community, and there are other businesses surrounding the area in the downtown area, and you'll all get together and you start working on a marketing to bring in customer segments from other communities to shop in your community. And that would be a strategic alliance. A lot of times, these strategic alliances are built by the local chamber or local economic development or other types of groups. And they invite the different brick and mortar stores, different retail businesses to come and be part of these alliances so that they can market, they can promote the community and shopping in this community as a whole, but which brings in customer segments for the different members. So a strategic alliance doesn't have to be just part of a chamber or economic development. Strategic alliances can be built up by different shops within the same community. Another example, let's say if your community is a niche for weddings and other celebrations. So you might have a shop that does bridal gowns. You might have a shop that does the other accessories that go along with the wedding. You might have a shop that has a tux rental. You might have a shop that has a photography and video producing, and you might all come together and create a strategic alliance and promote this alliance to the future couples that would be thinking about getting married. So you might come up like with a wedding expo where all the companies are promoted, marketing, and people come in and they discover what is it that each one of you offer. And then as an alliance, you might come up with a package deal for these couples where it would cost them a certain amount in order, and they would receive all these different services. So these are strategic alliances that can be built within communities and within different businesses of non-competitors. Now, co-opetition, they are strategic partnerships between competitors. And during COVID-19, we saw co-opetition increase. One example, during COVID-19, the distributors that were distributing food or other products were requiring, in order for their trucks to come into the communities, you had to buy a certain quantity for that distributor to come to your business. And they increased those quantities during COVID-19. So as what happens, some competitors got together and they started ordering the products or the quantity of products that were required by these distributors in order to have their needs fulfilled by the distributors. And then after they got the products, they would just distribute it among themselves, the different fruits, vegetables, meats, or other products that were needed. And this is just one example of a strategic partnership between competitors. And there are other ways that you can work as competitors. Another idea is if you have a downtown area that has several restaurants and you see each other on a daily basis as competitors, but in order to bring in customer segments from out of town, you might start promoting and promoting each other's businesses and bringing in people from other communities to come and eat in your local restaurants. And you know that once a customer segment likes a certain restaurant, and next time they might go to the next restaurant and try out what the other restaurant is offering. So those are just some ideas. Now, a third type of partnership is called joint ventures. And joint ventures are to develop new businesses. And I'll give you an example. Two small business owners got together during COVID-19 and they wanted to open up a bigger business in a bigger city. And what did that imply? That implied that the lease was going to be was going to cost more, and then to build the team and to set up the brick and mortar store, it was going to cost more. So two businesses got together and they developed a partnership, a joint venture, and they created a third business, which was outside of their communities, and they developed a new business as a joint venture where both invested and both were able put together their resources and build a good team for their business. And then we have the buyer-supplier relationships. And this is a constant for most business models. You have to take care of your supplier relationships. Who are your distributors? Where are you buying the raw materials from? Where are you buying your products that then you add value to and resell to your customer segments? During COVID-19, and we are still seeing the supply chains have been disrupted, especially with products coming from Asia or other countries in the Middle East, even from Latin America. And those disruptions have been caused by shortage of products, by shipping companies, by trucking companies, and other aspects. And we see that these buyer-supplier relationships have been disrupted. So what you have to take into account now is don't just have a plan A and just stick to one supplier, one distributor. You have to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. You have to start these relationships with other distributors, with other companies, because during the supply chain disruption, you have to take into consideration that you have to get access to your products, and you have to have that second option, that third option of where you will be getting your products from in order to continue as a business. And this has been one of those issues that have been very difficult to resolve for businesses during this COVID-19 disruption. So this is an area to think about and really study and really seek out to have a plan A, plan B, plan C. It's very important to have these key partnerships and have available alternatives, because you need those alternatives. Now, in key partnerships, also, you have to think about what is the motivation behind the partnerships. And one of them could be the optimization and economy of scales. Sorry for the misspelling there, the economy of scales. And it's designed to optimize the allocation of resources and activities. It's formed to reduce costs and often involve outsourcing or sharing infrastructure. So that might be the motivation why you have that partnership, that key partnership, in order to help reduce costs, in order to outsource a certain part of your manufacturing, or there might be certain equipment that for you it's too expensive to invest in, but you have a business nearby that has the equipment, so you might be renting out their equipment while you establish your business. And so these are key partnerships of a sharing of equipment, sharing of facilities, or different aspects. And then a second motivation would be the reduction of risks and uncertainty. And competitors may have an alliance in one area while competing in another. And this we have seen during COVID-19 where alliances have been built, where competitors create alliances in order to strengthen their local economy or in order to establish a newer business. Give you an example, you could be an art center, art studio where you sell art. And then next door might be a print and even a frame shop. And so together, if you come together, you could establish great deals for your customer segments, and having the art that framed or making reprints for the customer segments of certain art that will be printed in order to have copies of the art and not selling the original. And so there are different variations. And what you're doing is you're creating an alliance, and you're reducing the risks and uncertainty of your business model and establishing a bigger business model, which implies a partnership with competitions or with nearby small businesses. And you have to think about these risks and uncertainties and think about what is the motivation of why we are establishing the partnership. And this is the third one would be the acquisition of particular resources and activities. And the partnerships can be motivated by needs to acquire knowledge, licenses, or access to customers. So you might have a big listing of available customers, potential customers, and a key business within your community might connect with you and want to get access to your customers. And so a partnership might be established in order to share knowledge or to share a license or to share access to customers. And that's another motivation behind the partnerships. Now, this is very important to take into consideration. You need to understand the business model of your partners. In this case, you don't just understand your business model, but understand your potential key partner's business model. And see that the partnership will be a win-win situation for all the partners that are involved. So you have to ask yourself, how can partners leverage my business model? How can they take advantage of my business model and profit from that? And then that's what you're going to sell to your key partners and let them know, okay, let's establish a key partnership and it's going to be a win-win situation. You will have access to this part of my business, and I will have access to this part of your business. And it will benefit everybody involved, and it will help to succeed and grow all the businesses that are involved in these key partnerships. And I just want to remind all of you about the business model. Remember, it's about creating value, delivering value, and capturing value. And right now, we are going to talk about the last building block. And the last building block is the cost structure. And as I mentioned before, these three building blocks on top of the cost structure, they are what create your expenses. They are what create the cost structure. They are capital intensive. They are the financial part of your business. This is where you make the investments. and they make up the cost structure. What is key partners, key activities, and key resources. Now, cost structure. Cost structure are all the costs incurred from operating your business model. They are the outcome of your choices regarding key resources, key activities, and key partnerships. And ideally, they should always be smaller than the revenue streams. But as I mentioned at the beginning, it might not be possible because the first year, the second year, even the third year, you are still paying off on your key resources, on the investments and other aspects that you had to invest in. But eventually, cost structure should be higher. And this is what, cost structure should be lower, revenue streams should be higher. And that's when the profits start to come into your business. Now, there are two main types of costs. There are fixed costs and variable costs. And they are generated from the transfer of ownership rights of a tangible or intangible assets. Now, fixed costs. Fixed costs remain the same despite the volume of goods or services produced. For example, they usually include salaries, rents, and production facilities. Now, variable costs vary proportionally with the volume of goods or services produced and sold. For example, raw material, ingredients, inventory, commissions, utilities. Now, an important aspect to take into consideration is fixed costs can become variable costs under certain circumstances and vice versa. And we saw this during COVID-19 when restaurants and entertainment businesses had to shut down. And so what were fixed costs became variable costs. You started to open up your restaurant and you would have delivery only and you would have pickup service only. And so employee costs became variable because you were not sure how many employees you were going to have on a week-to-week basis, depending on how much work you had to offer or for your employee to work. Now, two types of business models with respect to cost structures. And either or, you're going to be either a cost-driven business model or value-driven business model. And you have to think about it. If you are a cost-driven business model, you focus on minimizing costs wherever possible to create the leanest possible cost structure. You use low price value propositions, you use maximum automation, and you use extensive outsourcing. And the cost-driven business models, we can see that in the products that are sold like in dollar stores. They are cost-driven because you are creating the leanest possible cost structure in order to make a profit. And the dollar stores, they are cost-driven business models. They are dependent on having low prices, value propositions, products that are low price, that are created in a foreign country, and they are created through automation, a lot of the products. And so you see cost-driven business models. Now we have the value-driven business models, and they are less concerned with cost implications with a stronger focus on value creation. It focuses on premium value propositions and a high degree of personalized services. And we can see value-driven business models would be like the iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy, which are value-driven. They companies that sell these smartphones are less concerned with cost implications, but they have a stronger focus on value creation. And that's why they have premium value propositions. And they have a high degree of personalized services. And we see this also with vehicles of certain brands like BMW, Audi, Volvo, and Tesla. And we see how these companies are value-driven business models versus a cost-driven. So you have to think about your business model and what is it, cost-driven or value-driven, or is it somewhere in between where yes, we try and cost, but we're also important for value. So you have to think about your business model and what word is it going to be based out of. And then cost structure. Cost structure may be realized through economies of scale. The cost advantages may be realized through economies of scales and economies of scope. When we're talking about economies of scale is that the cost advantages are realized when output expands. So the average cost per unit falls as output rises. So the more parts or the more gym shoes or the more a certain product that a manufacturing plant produces, the cost per unit will fall, and that's economies of scale versus economies of scope. Economies of scope are the cost advantages that are realized due to a larger scope of operations. And these cost advantages, the efficiency comes through diversification instead of volumes. And so an example in the past where the national car companies here in the United States, the Ford, the Chevrolet, and we saw how the economies of scope was their business model because they had a diversification of their products. So it was not just one brand of a car. It was the Chevrolet, GMC, Corvette, Buick, Pontiac, Cadillac. So we see how Chevrolet or General Motors, that's how they created their cost structure out of economies of scope. So you think about it, is it economies of scale or is it economies of scope? It's important to take into consideration is understand what drives the cost of your business model and understand if you should be cost-driven or value-driven. And you have to take that into consideration. And just a reminder, you're going to create value, deliver value, and capture value. And we have gone through the 9 building blocks of the business model. We have gone over the customer segments, value proposition, customer relationship, channels, revenue streams, key partners, key activities, key resources, cost structure. And I think last time we had talked about the disruptive shaving company. And we had talked about the first part about it's affordable men's shaving products. It's a mass men's market, but instead of going through retail, their stores were online and they were connecting with customers through viral videos, and the revenue streams was through customized subscription. And then here we see also key partners would be whoever has the material suppliers, the angel investors, wherever they produce their products. Key activities would be viral video and establishing other aspects of creating or manufacturing their shaving products. And then the key resources would be the e-commerce, the brand, and the manufacturing facilities. And then the cost structure would be the viral videos and the marketing costs. And just an example of what the disruptive shaving companies have as a business model. Now, we are finished with this workshop. And now I'm going to stop sharing. And what we are going to do is, first of all, before we even go and you go for 20 minutes and work on your business model on these 4 building blocks that we talked about today, are there any questions from the past, from customer segment to revenue streams? Do you have any questions on the past business model? Or do you have a question on the building blocks that we saw today before we take a 20-minute pause in order for you to work on your business model where you are at? Any questions? Okay, well, it's 1:05. We will be back at 1:25. And meanwhile, I will share the sheet with the certain questions. It's going to be the same practice handbook that you should have gotten from Jenny in order to work on. But I'll just post and I'll change the sheets around as every 5 minutes in order for you to see the different sections in case you don't have access to those sheets at this moment. So we're gonna take a 20-minute pause, and if you have any questions, you could ask in the chat box also during this time, or you can reconnect and ask us. But meanwhile, at 1:25, we come back, okay? Thank you.